I thank God for slavery. I thank God for the crack house. If it wasn't for the crack house, come on somebody, God wouldn't have never been able to use me how he can use me now. And if it wasn't for slavery, I might be somewhere in Africa worshiping a tree.
Get him. Get him.
He like a fucking bitch.
Call me a nigger again.
Nigga!
Oh, slap her ass.
It's the mob.
I'm playing with those
Umbrella. She's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. Now, I don't understand why we insist on being a part of this system. A system that was never designed to benefit us and has only caused our destruction from day one. We have to have the confidence to build our own. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Our ancestors left us the blueprint. But what we do have to do is learn how to protect what we build. And the truth is, we aren't as separated as people want us to believe. A bigger issue is that we suffer from the illusion of inclusion. You shouldn't have to debate anybody that you're a human and you deserve human rights like everybody else. I'm not going to sit there and debate you whether one of us deserve to be killed or not. We just don't need to be in the same society. And the problem is, while we trying to convince them that we're human and we deserve basic human rights, they've done a better job convincing us that we're less than. And they understand that as long as we fight to be a part of a system designed to destroy us, then we're not as much of a threat. But the moment we stop participating in this system and in our own destruction, then they know they have a problem. But instead of talking about ways to destroy white supremacy, too many of us are still debating how we like our racism, with a smile on our face with the Democrats, or just have it flat out in your face with the Republicans. But at the end of the day, it's all the same system. And most of the people who you think are your allies do not want the system destroyed because it benefits them. And in my opinion, it's stupid to choose between the lesser of two evils, especially when neither one is less evil than the other. But every time election time rolls around, everybody is so sorry for what they did. And when black people vote, we generally go out and vote as a group. But we have to understand, just voting isn't going to change our position, especially when they still vote every so often whether we're still going to be allowed to vote. And we have been voting for Democrats since the Civil Rights Movement. But the Civil Rights Bill that they ultimately got in 1964 was never meant to help us. It was meant to counter and stop the Civil Rights Movement. And we have to understand the Civil Rights Movement was needed at that time. A lot of people think it was just about integration. All of those bus boycotts weren't just about not riding on the back of the bus. It was about riding anywhere you want to on the bus and not having to give up your seat for a white person if there's no more seats left. It wasn't just about sending our children to white schools. It was about getting equal funding. Our kids were going to school with just one room and no heat in the wintertime and no indoor plumbing, so you would have to go outside to use the bathroom. They didn't have any books. Teachers would have to bring their own books. Sometimes they would have to teach them history out of Jet Magazine. And back then, Jet Magazine talked about real black issues and talked about real black history. But then when Brown versus Board came in 1954, in my opinion, that's where they made their mistake. Originally, when they won the case and proved separate but equal wasn't true, the dominant society hated us so bad they were willing to give equal funding to black schools just so we wouldn't integrate into their schools. Now, they could have easily stopped right there and got equal funding for black schools and built better school buildings, paid the teachers more, gave them books. But that wasn't enough for Thurgood Marshall and the NAACP. They ended up appealing again, saying the only way they could get equality is to go to white schools. Because when you go to white schools, you have certain connections. But when you have your own schools, your own establishments, your own communities, we could make our own connections and build our own Black Wall Street. But they weren't satisfied with just equal funding. They kept fighting to be a part of the white establishment. And today, we're still banging our heads against the wall trying to figure out how we could be a part of the establishment. But we have to understand they can only measure white supremacy by black inferiority. And we have to understand how they see us. And there's no limit to things they're willing to do to maintain their position. In Arizona, the police was caught on camera attacking and assaulting a 15-year-old teenage brother who don't have arms or legs. Now let's see what could possibly lead the police to assault a 15-year-old teenager without any arms or legs.
Only on KOLD News 13 tonight, we are getting a look at explosive new video of a controversial arrest involving a Pima County Sheriff's deputy and a 15-year-old who has no legs or arms.
Well, Dan, I showed that video to the Pima County Sheriff's Department just a little while ago. They had not seen the video before, and once they watched it, they did begin an internal investigation. Now, this incident happened a couple of months ago, but that video is just now coming to light. We were able to get our hands on it today, and as you said, it's going to be rather explosive.
And then they have an exchange, and he gets in his face.
And he curses at him.
You consider that egregious?
Yes, absolutely. Imagine you're this boy with no limbs who just got tackled by this large man with a badge and gun, and this man is now screaming in your face, and he's now threatening your friend who has the temerity to record this whole incident. Absolutely, that's egregious.
The 8-minute video begins with a deputy on top of the 15-year-old boy, wrestling him to the floor with shouting and swearing. Later, it also shows that same deputy arrests the 16-year-old boy who shot most of the video.
He's eating the bowl of cereal. He puts the bowl of cereal down. He puts his hand behind his back, and now the deputy's going to slam his head into the wall.
And he's completely restrained at this point and is not trying to resist arrest.
It doesn't look like he's doing anything.
Just for good measure, let's slam his head into the wall.
We watched the video with the public defender, Joel Feynman, and with his chief assistant, Megan Page, in their office.
I would be horrified if an officer treated my children this way, and these kids are already in the traumatic situation of being in DCS custody, and they're not even in a stable home environment. So I think it's absolutely horrific.
We showed the video to the Pima County Sheriff's Department Internal Affairs late this afternoon, which would not allow us to tape that. It was the first time the department had seen the video. It was not aware that it even existed, and as would be expected, they were non-committal.
It's difficult to really predict, but obviously there are a number of outcomes that could occur following an internal affairs investigation.
Meantime, the public defender's office says it's rare that videos such as this make daylight. Usually they get buried, so when one does see sunshine, it's a rare teaching moment.
Men with badges and guns should not be acting this way, and that men and women who do act this way should not have badges and guns.
Now, those two teenagers were arrested. They were taken to juvenile jail and booked for disorderly conduct. That case right now is being prosecuted by the Pima County Attorney's Office. Now, I'm going to talk to one of those young boys tomorrow. They're in school, so we have to sort of work around that. And the Pima County Sheriff's Office told us late this afternoon that that internal investigation would probably take a couple of weeks. These men are professionals, and they're very stoic. They didn't show any emotion, but I tell you what, they watched every moment of that video. They watched it very intently, and then after it was over, they asked us for a copy for their internal investigation.
And also, Bud, who's advocating for this teen? He lives in a group home. Do you have any idea who's going to be helping him through this process as it just gets started?
Well, yeah, you're right. He is in a group home. I was told today that he has been abandoned by his family. He does have a lawyer. I talked to the lawyer this afternoon, and he said there's likely to be some civil action, some civil litigation somewhere down the road.
Now, stuff like this go down all the time. This time, it just happened to be caught on video. And it all started after this 15-year-old brother with no arms or legs who was in a group home because his parents abandoned him. And he got upset with the staff member, so he knocked over a trash can. So then the staff member at the group home called the police. And then when the cop came, he claimed this 15-year-old brother with no arms or legs was disturbing the peace. So then he decided to restrain his brother. This cop tackled this teenage boy with no arms or legs and then put him in a headlock with his entire body weight holding him down. And then after he finally got off him, he stood over top of him, yelling at him, threatening him. So then another 16-year-old brother, CJ, who was also living in the group home, he tried to tell the cop, ease up. I mean, the brother ain't got no arms or legs. So then the cop told him to shut the hell up. And then he told him to get out because he was recording. And then when he refused, they ended up arresting the 16-year-old brother. And while they were arresting him, they slammed his head against the wall, even though he wasn't resisting at all. Now, both of these teenagers in this group home was arrested and charged with disorderly conduct or contempt of a cop. Basically, this cop saying they didn't do what he said when he said do it. Meanwhile, this cop, Manuel Van Santon, is an award-winning cop and was the president of the Fraternal Order of Police in 2017. But that's because this system rewards this kind of behavior. That's what the system teaches you to do. But even after hundreds of years, it seems like we're the only ones that still have to learn how savage they are to us. In Sacramento, another brother, James Bradford Nelson, was severely burned after he was arrested by Citrus Heights police. Now let's see how somebody could get burned being arrested by the police.
I'm feeling sad and I'm feeling hurt because I know my son didn't deserve this.
The family of a Stockton man is searching for answers tonight after their son ended up with severe burns while being detained by police. Citrus Heights police say the man was acting erratically and resisting officers.
The arrest happened at a local restaurant following an alleged attempted robbery.
James Nelson is being treated here at the UC Davis Medical Center. He was brought here on Friday with major burns to his body after being pushed up against hot pavement while police were trying to restrain him. And tonight his family is just begging for answers.
I'm feeling sad and I'm feeling hurt because I know my son didn't deserve this.
The last few days for stepdad Barry Benigno and mom Tasha have been agonizing, seeing their 28-year-old son, James Nelson, barely coming out of a coma with 2nd to 3rd degree burns.
He has a mental disability, and even if he was doing something, acting out or whatever, nobody deserves to be burnt. His whole chest, his neck, his face.
My feelings are bewilderment. I don't want to point the finger and accuse anybody of anything. We just wanted answers.
This all stemmed from an interaction with Citrus Heights police on Friday. Police released this surveillance video from inside a KFC in Citrus Heights. They say around 4 they got a call about Nelson acting erratically and going after employees.
The manager of the store appears here. Mr. Nelson comes after him, grabs his waistband in an apparent attempt to steal his wallet. And based on the officer's observations, it appeared that Mr. Nelson, in addition to all the other erratic and irrational behavior that was reported to the police, he appeared to be under the influence of some sort of controlled substance at the time.
Police do admit he suffered the burns from the hot pavement, but add that he wasn't wearing a shirt.
He attempted to flee on foot. Ultimately, he was taken to the ground to try to safely control him. Mr. Nelson continued to resist officers while on the ground.
Police tried to restrain him, but say he resisted.
He was on the ground only long enough to safely control him.
Could you give an estimate of how long he was maybe pinned down?
I can't.
Police say earlier in the day they had prior contact with Nelson. He was involved in a car accident where he appeared to be at fault, and just an hour prior to the KFC incident, they got a number of 911 calls about him crossing the road through traffic. Police cited him for that, then let him go. Now the family still wants answers.
If that's what happened in the store, they should have arrested him. You know, not tortured him. And clearly this is torture.
The family again says that Nelson had mental disorders and that police could have handled this differently, but police say that based on Nelson's behavior, the officers acted appropriately. They're now saying that he's being charged with attempted robbery and some other charges as well, but the case is being turned over to the district attorney's office. Meanwhile, Nelson is recovering, and hopefully it's just going to be a long road for him, though. We're wishing him a speedy recovery.
When I was recollecting all that I was being told, you know, what I remember, unbelievable. It all comes down to living like this now, with all these burns, and I'm not walking regularly. You know what I mean? I can't really pick up my son. I can't wrestle with him. You touch me any type of way, or if I bend or move the wrong way, I'm in pain. It's hard to like get in the bathtub or walk up the stairs, and walk up curves, because it doesn't lift that high. Also, because the burns on the calf, you know, and the burn on the back, you know, those two burns messed up my nerves. So I can't even bend it all the way like I can. I can't sit down on real low spots.
Yeah,
So,
and you use
a regular toilet. They shouldn't be trying to charge me, you know, because I've got a very long history of mental health, you know, and what I'm diagnosed with by doctors explains this type of behavior. It's being something that goes with what I'm diagnosed with. You know, so even though the behavior is out of the ordinary and it's bizarre, but I do that because I am paranoid and I'm schizophrenic, so it happens sometimes. My chest doesn't look like a chest, my stomach doesn't look like a stomach. It's very uncomfortable. It's not real skin. I don't even can't even really live like this. You really can't. You're not supposed to. I'm not supposed to live. Nobody's supposed to live like this. You know what I mean? It's weird. It's really weird.
So he's going to need additional reconstructive surgeries.
It's like,
Is that what you've been told by the doctor?
you know how like you don't feel any type of discomfort with regular skin.
Now, I know his Hispanic stepdad doesn't want to blame anybody or point the finger at anybody, but this brother James Nelson has been diagnosed with schizophrenia for years, and this brother was in the middle of having a mental health breakdown. Now, they say he was acting erratically and walking in and out of traffic, and the police say they cited him, but they let him go. Then he was accused of trying to take somebody's wallet, but the charges for that was dropped. But when the police came back out, they forced his head down onto the pavement. And on that day, the pavement was around 170 degrees. Now, they say at 144 degrees, you can boil an egg. And at 162 degrees, it melts the skin instantly. And as they were forcing his brother onto the ground, he was being burned. And the more he tried to get up, the more they were holding him down. And they held him down to the point where he couldn't move. And they held the right side of his face and his neck down on the ground. And they held his brother down there until he was completely burned. This brother had to have a skin graft and is completely disfigured for life. He don't even have skin on his stomach no more. All because he was having a mental health crisis. Meanwhile, these same people go out of the way to protect their little terrorists at all costs.
Leaders of a Gwinnett County church will meet tonight, but not to worship. Instead, they plan to discuss security. Gainesville police say they thwarted a white teenager's plan to attack the predominantly black Bethel AME church. Her fellow classmates raised the red flag before anyone was hurt. CBS 46's Megan Packer talked to them today.
Police say the 16-year-old went to great lengths to plan her attack to murder parishioners inside Bethel AME Church. But alert students spoke up, and the police and school district are commending them.
I mean, it's kind of scary.
Unnerving news for Gainesville high school students learning one of their classmates is charged with planning a violent attack on church members. Senior Zarina Williams tells us it has students talking.
It could have been really bad, like, even it's a neighborhood. I know people that live in that neighborhood.
CBS 46 learned school leaders addressed this with the student body today. A statement from Superintendent Jeremy Williams says in part, quote, a single act by a student does not represent the views and beliefs of Gainesville City School System. As a school system that celebrates our diversity, we are beyond stunned with the recent development.
But luckily, she mentioned this to another student, and the student found it alarming, and the process worked. They saw something, said something. The administrators did not take it for granted.
Police say students alerted administrators to detailed plans in the 16-year-old girl's notebook to carry out a violent attack at Bethel AME Church. Chief Jay Parrish says the girl intended to stab church members with kitchen knives because of their race, even showing up one evening, but no one was there. He says she was fueled by what she researched online.
It's disgusting hate to see somebody that has those kind of feelings.
The 16-year-old girl is now in a youth detention center, charged as a minor with criminal attempt to commit murder. Church leaders want her charged as an adult.
I believe that she would probably gone back had we not interfered. There's no doubt in my mind.
The church's pastor tells CBS 46 they will not hold their regular Bible study here tonight, but church leadership is planning to meet to discuss this incident, including security.
Now, this little 16-year-old white girl planned to go into a black church and kill black people. Now, of course, they don't want to say her name, let alone call her what she is, a terrorist. And they just called this little terrorist a teenager. Meanwhile, a 15-year-old teenager with no arms or legs, who was just upset and knocked over a trash can, don't get as much protection as a 16-year-old white girl who planned to go into a church and kill people. And this little white girl thought she was just going to walk into a black church and start stabbing people with a kitchen knife and get away with it. But people like her get that confidence because all we do as a people is say, oh Lord, and praise Jesus if they don't kill everybody. And then even we start calling it a mental condition and go out of our way to forgive them. And all we could do is ask the people who created this system and that mindset to make new hate laws to charge this little white girl with. But of course they're going to cape for her. And even though it's attempted murder, they're only going to charge her as a minor. There was a black girl who was 16 years old who was charged with murder as an adult. And the police killed her boyfriend. She didn't kill anybody. But this little white girl trying to copy Dylan Roof only get charged as a minor and probably get a slap on the wrist. And they're going to protect her identity. So you don't even know who she is. Or if your teenage children are friends with her. But at the end of the day, we have to understand that mindset. It's only been hundreds of years. We should understand it by now. We are all we got. And we can't be a part of a system or try to change the system that was designed to destroy us. We have to realize we are all we got. And we have no other choice but to build our own. But until we do, we're going to be subject to their rules, their laws, and their punishments. And they can do whatever they want, and they'll keep getting away with it.
For what?
Because I told you to.
You haven't have a reason, sir. You didn't pull me over. But you didn't pull me over.
Get the license out, or I'll hit for a backup, and I'll take you out of the car. Get your driver's license.
Call your supervisor, sir.
Get your driver's license out right now.
Call your supervisor.
Get
Please
your
call your supervisor.
I'm
you
not calling the supervisor.
You're not pulling me over, neither.
You get your driver's license out right now. Show me ID.
Call your supervisor. What do you need my ID for, sir?
Well, because you want to run your mouth to me.
No, because you was looking at my license plate. For what?
Exactly.
For what?
You don't have the right to run this.
I got my rights to do anything I want to do. I'm a police officer.
You can't run
that doesn't mean anything.
That doesn't mean anything. I'll pull you over and I'll tow your car.
You can't tow my car.
You're
not pulling me over. You're not pulling me over.
Get your driver's
What is your badge
license
number,
out.
sir?
Right there it is.
What's your name?
Can you read it to me?
Yeah.
What's your name?
Read your badge number and your name.
Get your driver's license
Read
out,
your
or I'm
badge.
gonna lock you
I'm
up.
asking you. You can't lock me up. You can't lock me up.
Control Tom 3315.
We're asking you to call a supervisor, sir.
Yeah. I'm telling you, we're not getting a supervisor.
We're not getting a supervisor? So he's not getting a supervisor. We requested a supervisor.
I don't mind showing you my driver's license.
Show me your
But
driver's
what is your reason that you're asking?
Because.
Why?
Because you're acting suspicious.
About what? We was in there shopping.
I said, show me your driver's license.
What is the suspicion, sir?
Get your driver's license out.
You can't
Just
state
show
the
me your
suspicion.
driver's license. That's all I want to see.
You're not explaining to me. You didn't pull
I'm
me over.
explaining to
You
you.
jumped out your car and asked me, did I want to?
Investigation.
What's the what are you investigating?
Look,
You
get
just
your
see me in there
driver's
shopping.
license
I paid.
Because
I
we spent
paid.
money.
I paid for everything that I bought.
Get your driver's license out.
Sir,
Show me your driver's license. If you don't got no warrants or nothing, you're gone. I don't have no problem.
what is the reason
Get
that you're
your
stopping
driver's
me?
license. I'm not going to argue with you no more.
I'm not arguing. I'm trying to understand
Show 'em your
something.
The
license.
other
We
car
got
gets
video.
you, I'm going to take both of you out, and I'm going to tow your car.
Can you give me your name?
Your failure to identify.
I'm not. You have no
Show me
reason.
your driver-
You have
show
no
me your
reason to
driver-
pull me
Show
over.
me your driver's
You
license.
didn't even pull. You're not even behind me. You jumped out the car and told me
Exactly.
to stop.
You stopped right here.
We weren't in traffic, sir. We were
Give me
pulling out of
your
a
driver's
parking spot.
license, or I'm going to tow your car.
You're not
You
going to
can't
tow
tow
anything.
the car, sir.
You're not going to tow a car.
Step it up.
Call 911
I am.
on my phone. I'm not refusing anything. I just want to
First
know.
of all,
your driver's license.
First of all, you had to suspect him of a crime to ask for his identity. You didn't do that.
You don't know the
Yeah,
law.
yeah, I do know the law.
No, you don't know the law.
Once you
Get
look
your
me,
driver's license out and make this easy. Just show me your driver's license and you can go.
what's your name, officer? That's all I want, because we're
Show
following.
me your driver's license and you can go.
We asked for a supervisor. You denied us that.
I'm not going to get a supervisor.
I'm asking for your name.
I'm off-duty employment.
You're off duty?
Exactly. Off-duty employment.
If you're off duty, then why are you stopping people?
And I'm stopping you because you're suspicious.
Why are
About
we
what?
suspicious?
Well, what'd you come back around for?
Because I want to know
No, you jumped out of the car on us because we
Exactly.
looked at you.
Because I don't know what you guys are doing. Now show me your
You don't know what
driver's
we're
license.
doing? You just seen
Show
us
me
shopping.
your driver's license.
You don't look. You see all these bags in the back of the car? We just came out of the store seeing you, so you
Show
know
me
what
your
we're doing.
driver's license. Just show them to me. And if your driver's license check out, I'm gonna let it go.
Oh, it's not gonna be let go.
I don't care what.
Sir, what is
don't
your
threaten
name?
me. Are you threatening me?
It's not gonna be let go.
Are you gonna threaten me? Are you
why
crazy?
Why you got your
you
hand
gonna threaten
in
a
here?
police officer?
Why you got your hand on the window? I'm not scared of you. I'm not worried about you. I
I'm
haven't
not
done
worried
anything.
about you
We
either.
ain't broke no
Get your
laws.
driver's license out right now.
We have not
I'm
broke
about
no
to,
laws.
sir. Can you give me your name?
Get your driver's
Name?
license out.
Can you identify
Get your
yourself?
driver's license
Can
out.
you identify yourself?
Get your driver's license
Can you
out.
identify yourself, sir?
You see who I am? You see my badge?
What's your
But
name?
what is your name?
Get your driver's
What is your
license.
name, sir?
Control Tom 3315.
A civil servant,
Off duty.
off duty, pulling people over at Nordstrom parking
Ain't
lot.
nobody pulled you over. You stopped.
Well, if you ain't
No,
pull us over, you don't need to
stopped
see
me.
no license.
You jumped out and stopped
No,
me.
I said, show me your driver's license.
You jumped out and
I
stopped me.
said, show me your ID.
You jumped out and stopped
I'm
me,
not
sir.
gonna argue with you.
It's
Sir,
not an argument.
Okay, we
wait,
just had.
just wait.
It's
You'll
just
see.
one question. What was the reason for you jumping out on us?
Suspicious behavior.
What, like what?
Exactly.
What was the suspicious behavior?
Exactly.
Buying a bunch of shoes
But
at
you guys are
Nordstrom?
coming back around to look at me.
No,
or
you jumped out the
whatever
car.
You're gonna do.
You
I don't
jumped
know
out
if
the
you got
car
guns or
first.
what.
You jumped out the car first. That's why we
Get
came
your
back.
driver's license out. It's the last time I'm going to tell you. Get your driver's license
Let's go,
out.
cuz.
We're gonna wait for backup, sir.
Yeah, we wait.
An authority over you, or
You
however.
don't have no authority over
Not
me.
me. Not
We're
me.
asking. We want
You're
the.
supervisor.
Authority over me.
You're
Who's your
supervisor?
supervisor?
I don't have a supervisor out.
Oh, you're a self-contracted civil servant. Is that what you're saying?
I don't answer questions to you. We'll wait.
You don't even answer what your name is, officer?
Nope.
You can't even tell us that?
Nope.
Are you really an officer of the law?
Yep.
We don't have any proof that you are.
Well, that's
Because
too
you have a
bad.
shirt that
Get
says
your driver's license out.
What is your proof that you're even legal to
Shut
stop
up.
us?
What is
Why
your
don't
proof?
you shut up?
What
I'm
is
not
your
talking
proof?
to you.
What is your proof? I'm being calm. You don't have to yell and spit in the car.
Yeah, I do.
Now you're spitting bodily fluids on us.
Yeah, there you go.
You know,
better get your driver's license out.
That's all right, officer. We're compliant.
These guys were inside there. They got a bunch of stuff, and then they ran their mouth to me as they were leaving to try to make sure I didn't get their license plate. And then he didn't want to show me ID.
Officer Streelman.
No, they didn't steal items.
We bought a bunch of items.
They bought a bunch of stuff, but when they were sitting right here, I was trying to get their license plate. He hollers out the window, "You're not getting my plate," and he takes off. So I went to get him. Then he comes back and he stops here. So I asked him for driver's license.
It's all on video. That's not what happened.
What infraction did he commit?
Nothing at all, officer.
It's suspicious behavior. I'm wanting an ID.
Okay. What was suspicious about it?
Because he was calling me out in my car.
What did I call you, sir? I didn't call you anything.
I asked you,
what were you trying to get my license plate for? That's what I asked you.
Okay. Well,
And then I came back to really see what was going on. That's why we stopped in front of the store. With my hazards on. And he jumped out. We have it on record. He jumped out and told me to stop. Okay. And started asking us for ID and all this and that. And then he said we was looking suspicious. How? We was in the same store he was in. We were shopping. The thing is, he asked for my license. For what reason? That's all we asked him, officer. That's all we asked him. What infraction or what crime do you suspect us of committing? And then we asked him for a supervisor. He said, you're not getting a supervisor.
hang tight for me for just 1 second.
Yes, sir.
You're free to go.
So we didn't get your name. We never got your name.
After defending the NYPD's former stop and frisk policy for years, former Mayor Michael Bloomberg is now apologizing for the controversial program. This apology comes as Bloomberg considers a presidential run. And CBS 2's Rena Roy is outside City Hall in Lower Manhattan now with reaction. Rena.
Yeah, Natalie, this is certainly a bombshell admission from the former mayor. Now, for years, he said the policing tactic took guns off the streets and made the city safer. Now he appears to be walking back on those beliefs.
I can't change history. However, today, I want you to know that I realized back then I was wrong, and I'm sorry.
A stunning apology from former Mayor Michael Bloomberg Sunday morning as he stood before the predominantly black congregation at the Christian Cultural Center in East New York, Brooklyn. The admission coming as he eyes a run for the White House.
It's about trying to get votes. It's real convenient. That's what it looks like.
Mayor de Blasio standing with those skeptical New Yorkers, expressing his doubts about Bloomberg's sincerity.
People aren't stupid. Like, they can figure out whether someone is honestly addressing an issue or whether they're acting out of convenience. There were many points where he could have acknowledged this. It seems awfully strange that it took till now.
Stop and frisk gave NYPD officers the right to stop anyone they suspected of a crime, creating a disproportionate number of blacks and Latinos being stopped, according to statistics from the New York Civil Liberties Union.
I didn't understand that back then, the full impact that stops were having on the black and Latino communities.
An NYCLU report shows more than 2.5 million people were stopped and frisked while Bloomberg was mayor between 2003 and 2013. Weapons were found in only 2% of those stops. During the same time period, murders and shootings declined modestly. Brooklyn Borough President and former NYPD Captain Eric Adams met with Bloomberg on Sunday.
I accept this apology. I believe that the question now becomes, how do we move forward? What do we do now after that acknowledgement?
However, the police union tweeted a statement blasting the administration, with its president, Patrick Lynch, saying the, quote, misguided policy inspired an anti-police movement that has made cops the target of hatred and violence, adding the apology is too little too late.
Some kind of conduct with that speech rose to the level of violating federal law. So if I said something offensive, I'm going to say a lot of offensive things in here because it's impossible to talk about First Amendment without saying horrible things. You're just a dumb nigger, and I hate you. That alone, that's protected speech. If I say that and I put a hood over that person's face or take some kind of conduct, then we might raise the level of speech. So if you walk into the Dean of Students office and start screaming obscenities about F this place, F all of you, you know, you're all effing stupid, they can escort you out and they can do that immediately. And you say, no, it's my free speech right. No, I can tell them all to F off every time I want. No, because you're in a non-public forum in that setting. And so the restriction only needs to be reasonable in order for you to do that.
Excuse me, but why did you censor the F word but not the N word?
I apologize, I didn't think anything about that. I apologize, I didn't mean anything by that, it didn't even occur to me.
You know that word comes with a history of hurt. It was unnecessary, it was cruel.
I apologize.
Unnecessary and it was cruel, and you know that.
I apologize. One, I wish I'd censored that word. It came out without thought, and I sincerely apologize.
How often do you say it for it to just roll off the tongue, right?
I literally have never said that word in a public setting before.
And you didn't even you didn't have to say it. Like you didn't, like you blanked out the F word, but you said the N word. Like that's the whole thing.
So UNT system staffer resigns after using the N word during a panel discussion. It happened a week ago, but the students say it's not enough.
Today, students held a silent protest during a UNT Regents meeting. The students walked in dressed in all black. Thanks for being with us. I'm Jason Wheeler in for Chris Lawrence.
And I'm Cynthia Isaguirre. Kevin Reese was at that meeting.
Remember that we are all really powerful.
The powerful statement the UNT students hoped to make stems from this incident 1 week ago, when a UNT assistant legal counsel at a university-sponsored event trying to explain the limitations of free speech used the N-word.
It's impossible to talk about First Amendment without saying horrible things. You know, you're just a dumb and I hate you.
Free speech, whatever.
Minority students in the audience erupted in protest.
I wish I'd censored that word. It came out without thought.
Caitlin Sewell tried to backtrack and apologize, but the damage was done. The very next day, Assistant Legal Counsel Caitlin Sewell submitted her resignation. I deeply regret the hurt that my speech has caused.
Okay.
Today, a week later, students would stage a silent protest in a UNT Regents meeting.
You'll see it later.
But the university president greeted them first, promising his support for their efforts and whispering this into Yolian Ogbu's ear.
I used to do this all the time in the late 60s and early 70s, so I get it and I'm with you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay. Aww.
In a western Iowa school library, what would have normally been a typical Denison School Board meeting turned into a lengthy conversation about a racial slur used by Crystal Holt, a government teacher.
The word should not be used in any context.
The school board decided to place Holt on paid administrative leave after the incident. However, many in the audience disagreed.
To come out and start this smear campaign to try to make her out to be a racist in order to get her off of a student's back academically is nonsense, and it's also embarrassing.
As a teacher, when a student asks a question, it is our first impulse to the best of our ability to answer that question.
Nearly everyone in attendance was not questioning Holt's character. In fact, they praised her. Yet some raised red flags on her use of the word and whether it was used as a teachable moment. Holt was not at the meeting, but she explained her use of the word to a local radio station. Her husband, Iowa State Representative Stephen Holt, shared it on Facebook.
The case deals with racism, and I asked why they put hate crimes on their board. And one of the students said, because in the reading it says he used pejorative terms. And another student in that group said, what does pejorative mean? And I said, it means derogatory. And the student said, what does derogatory mean? And I said, it means terms that are not nice to race, and continued trying to explain that. And I said he used the N-word, and then I said he used the word.
High school senior Chris Espino adds Holt used the N-word more than once.
It did cause a reaction later on Friday once more students knew about the actual issue that occurred. And it caused a spark again when she came in the classroom and repeated the phrase and proceeded to try to defend herself.
Most that spoke up during the meeting believe conversations surrounding race is important and say we should not shy away from it in the school system.
If people are saying, well, you can't say those words and they have to be removed from our language, the second that you do that, you're releasing a beast that you have no idea what the consequences are going to be on the other side of that tunnel.
The public comment portion of the meeting lasted nearly 90 minutes and emotions ran high throughout.
There was no apology and there was no understanding on the other side, which is what kind of set it off.
Hey. You did it, why? I'm a YouTube and shit. Ooh!
Why do you have press charges on your fucking black ass?
Yeah, okay, when you touch me, bitch,
I didn't touch you!
It's on camera.
No, it ain't. It's on camera. You did! You shut the fuck up! You retarded fuck! You don't know how much dick in your asshole has!
I'm tight. Bro, I might be the smallest nigga in this bar. But I ain't ready to, oh, what? How you feel? Okay, that's how you feel?